So, I wanted to talk about a couple of things. Another one of these self-help, unsolicited advice videos where I hope that by sharing my little experience, I can help somebody else to avoid issues in their personal life. So, some red flags about people on social media. Obviously, attention seeking. Social media is all about attention, but if somebody's like posting the "I'm a victim" stories all day long about their personal life, and their entire narrative is wrapped around people feeling sorry for them, that's a huge problem. And when you're talking to somebody, one obvious red flag is when you're talking to somebody and you don't respond in a given time frame, and they snap at you, like you don't have a life, like you don't have things going on. That's a red flag. Picking fights with you, like all the time, over social media, real problematic. High conflict people don't know how to not be in conflict. So if you detect any of this early on, whether it be like a girl or just somebody you're talking to, you're gonna have problems with that person. Um, Obviously, it's just kind of a video geared toward guys because that's my experience is having these behaviors deployed on me by people I'm talking to. So, or I get involved with. This doesn't mean that every person I've dated is done this, but no, usually not. I'm not the type to post about my previous relationships on social media. I'm not the type of guy to be posting memes about how my exes are assholes. I'm not the type of person that says that about my exes because it's not true. I'm not the type of person who doesn't take responsibility for things I do in a relationship and play the victim. So yeah. But yeah, I mean, if you're a guy, one of the real thing you got to watch out for is you're probably not going to get beat up by your girlfriend, but you might be verbally abused. But she might degrade you. So what you want to do in your desire for a mate is notice this stuff early. Okay, so if she never takes responsibility for anything, and you never heard her take responsibility if she can't, then you're going to have a bad time. If somebody is openly talking about mental illness, okay, you don't want to be ableist and not give them a chance. But if they have no road for recovery and they don't talk about recovering, it's like, I'm so mentally ill, then you can't deal with that. My advice with that is to seek somebody around your level of mental illness. So if you're like clinically depressed, look for a depressed chick. Don't look for a BPD chick. Don't look for a bipolar chick. They're on a whole another level. We're talking delusions and psychosis. If you've never seen psychosis, I've seen people take fucking drugs and think that, everything they owned was hacked. They had no proof. And they would later admit it, of course. I've seen people have bipolar episodes and think that they were under attack by people and it just wasn't true. Not everyone who has a given mental illness is debilitated by it, so a lot of that has to come down to who you're dealing with, how they've handled their trauma, because if they haven't handled their trauma, they're going to take everything out on you. You're literally just going to be there for them to use as a weapon post. A lot of times you'll see, walls of messages. Again, that's inappropriate for anyone to do. Just walls of messages, walls of frustration and anger that have nothing to do with you. It's bad. So another thing in a relationship is incredibly toxic is if you're abused, right? You come from a particular background and you haven't handled it. You haven't handled your abuse in your 30s and 40s and you're still jacked up from it and you haven't learned and you're still taking that out on people that are in your life as a friend or a romantic partner, that's bad. So if you can't have somebody talk to you honestly and in a direct manner without getting your feelings hurt, you're going to have problems. And this is for either party. because part of dating is going to be rejection, and not just any rejection, but like fundamental rejection. They're like, I see you for who you are, and I just don't like you, right? Or I see through you in a way that you cannot see. Um, that happens a lot. And disrespect, if somebody is openly saying they're better than you or they're implying it in arguments, one of the things I've noticed people will do, and age is just a number. People aren't mature just because they're middle aged or above. So they might take every argument as an excuse to say, hey, maybe we should, split. Um, let's say you discuss, hey, I'm going to go to college, I might be a little busy, and they say, you want to find somebody else? Stuff like that. Maybe they attack your character. They say if you were a little different, you'd be told scumbag, or they call you scumbag for XYZ behavior. If they just assume everything you're doing has like the worst intent, then they're not going to be able to carry on any kind of relationship. And a lot of times, if they don't go out of their way, if you don't go out of your way as an adult to actually have a social life, this is difficult. Something I've struggled with. But if you don't do that, you don't even try, I mean, you're going to be fucked up. You're going to have problems. And if every time somebody gets close to you, you basically just burn them, well, then you're not going to have anybody left. That's family and that's everybody else. Another thing people will do is they'll talk shit about everyone in their life. So if somebody's talking to you and they're telling you, oh, I have friend X, Y, and Z, and they're stupid and they're horrible, then they're saying that about you. Your turn hasn't come yet, but it'll come eventually. So, yeah, I mean, if somebody's vomiting all their problems out on you, you're not a therapist, unless you are a therapist, but you theoretically should be paid for that. It's disrespectful, right? Completely disrespectful to climb in somebody's life and just vomit your problems onto them, and then when the shoe's on the other foot, you're not there. And a lot of times, if somebody's immature enough to do that, they're not going to be mature enough to listen to what you have to say anyway. One of the red flags about people, in terms of are they messed up, is are they, have they claimed that everyone they dated is like a fucking psychopath? Obviously, if they're doing that, then they're messed up. They're the problem. I don't care how nice they think they are. That's very basic. I mean, everybody knows that, right? There's no fucking way that everyone you date is completely just off. If somebody doesn't, let's say there's a breach of trust let's say you say something that hurts somebody's feelings, right? That's one end of the spectrum. And let's say there's a breach of trust on the other. So if you have a fight with somebody and they go out of the way to apologize and you don't accept the apology and you just kind of hang it over them like, I remember that, and you're this and you're that, and you just keep arguing about it, and it's like literally a thing you're beating them up with. Somebody's going to have to be the adult in the situation to say, hey, we shouldn't do this anymore, right? So, unfortunately, there are people that will do this because they're not adults mentally. Mentally they're children. So maybe they've come from a very privileged background. They're rich, okay, and they've had their ass wiped for them in some ways, and they've been abused in others, which is the worst of both worlds. Maybe they're from a higher income bracket. Maybe they just don't know how to talk to people. Maybe they've had a successful career, and that gives them carte blanche to treat everyone like an underling. Maybe they're delusional, and they think that they're actually better than you, but they're not. I mean, that's a thing too. So somebody can objectively have no accomplishments, barely an education, not know anything, not any skills, not have a life, and so forth, not any property, not have any jobs, nothing, and think that they're the shit because of X, Y, and Z. And they'll be delusional enough to believe it, and if you challenge that, then they're going to be gone. So yeah, what you want to do, I mean, before you marry some chick, or you move in with her, or you sleep with her, or whatever it is, you want to figure out if they have any of those fucking personality traits. Because if you're fighting before you're together, if you're having like little arguments, and those are going to come up again, you're going to fight again, right? So, like, some people don't know how to not do that. Some people take everything the wrong way. Some people will cry about empathy all day long, but what they mean by empathy is submission to what they think and what they want. And that's not the basis for any relationship. That's a power dynamic. There are power dynamics in every relationship, but the relationship can be based on that. And a lot of times, somebody's complaining about narcissism, and you look at them, and they're the one that has it. They're the problem, right? And it's a nasty truth. It's a truth bomb, but people lie about abuse. People lie about getting hurt. People. Maybe it's not even a lie. Maybe they're delusional. Maybe they literally think that if somebody else stands up for themselves, then they're being abused. There's that. And it's unfortunate because if you're an agent of reality and they're deluded, then you're going to be the problem, not reality, which is all that you're trying to reflect. And these, any of these interactions you have with people like this, they're going to be real shallow. If you, like if you have to be the adult in the room and call things off, you're never going to hear from that person again until you go your way, right? Because they don't have the maturity to say I'm wrong or I fucked up or whatever. So, and if you say it, they're going to say yes, you fucked up, you're an asshole forever, right? So that's a thing too. And it's if somebody's never had a functional relationship, and their whole fucking dating history is what they describe, right? So they describe everybody as a psychopath. You're doomed, right? It's never going to go anywhere. It's never going to work because you're not going to be the one to. You might be a transitional partner for them. You might teach them like how it's done. They might raise their standards a little bit to know that hey, I shouldn't get involved with people like this. Because at some point, it's one thing to be abused, a couple times, but if you're just continuously just getting into these relationships and just getting abused, it's not. I mean, at that point, you're stupid, right? And there's no reason anybody else to feel sorry for you. But at some point in your life, you have to take responsibility. You have to say, hey, I need to get better. I need to avoid this issue, and just not be perpetually unhappy. And again, I mean, if you're not functioning and you're abusing drugs and alcohol of whatever kind, including marijuana, it might be better than you. I mean, in that case, then yeah, it's pretty sad. So I'll never know why people that have serious mental illness just think it's a great idea to use any drugs. I really don't, because I've never known people that ever come out on the other side. Okay, I mean, I've known people that will claim, oh, well, I'm such a nice person when I'm high, as if that isn't a red flag that they need to go to therapy, right? Again, so yeah, if somebody's ranting to you about all this kind of stuff, and you're not a therapist, you can't help them. Like, you're not professional. So, at that point, you just have to kind of get away from that. Because at the end of the day, I mean, I think the objective, I mean, if you're normal, let's say, like, if you're poly, it's going to be different. Poly relationships will be different. But if you're a normal fucking person, you want to find somebody that has some kind of ambition so that they'll get you somewhere with them. You're going somewhere and you want somebody to go there with you, but with their own shit, right? You don't want them to just be riding your coattails. So if you're a normal person, you want somebody with an education, right? Because instead of there being one income making like $50,000 a year, there could be two incomes making $50,000 a year, and you can retire really wealthy and really happy and have a great retirement. Or you can date a complete loser, right, with no education and no goals, and an education that doesn't get him anywhere, and basically just get nowhere. Right? Retire with whatever you make and take care of them and whatever children you might have. So, yeah, and it's really hard for dudes that get used and abused to own up to it, but it happens. Some know it to happen because we think that expression of emotion is like weak or some stupid shit like that, as if being a sociopath is great. It's not. It's fucking disabling. Um, that's not something we should all strive for as people. But yeah, I mean, it's real basic. You don't want to dump on somebody. If somebody's doing that, I mean, they've got unresolved issues backing up their brain, emotional centers. They can't. They're undateable, right? So avoid that. It's one thing to exchange, but you can always tell when somebody just wants somebody to talk to you. They just want to talk to themselves, with you, basically. Because if they're not interested in your input and they get mad at anything you say that deviates from their fucking worldview, then what is that? What is that? 6 billion people in the world, and you think your perspective is the one that's correct, objectively? But basically, yeah. I mean, if you're getting upset at somebody and you're kind of seeing them and you haven't gone to that level of moving in together or getting married, then you should probably reconsider what you're doing. It's a bad sign. It's going to be worse when they're around you physically. So if they're dismissive, if anybody ever says to you you don't mean shit to them or anything like that, just people that are old, my age, and they say you'll never understand me, if they're 16, or the you don't know me thing. I heard that in my 20s. Anybody says something like that, better for you and better for them just to not do it, right? Because if you date that person and you try to correct them and correct them and correct them and help them and help them and help them, and give them a place to live and try to do everything you can to make them happy, it's not going to get you anywhere. You're just going to get sucked dry and used, And that's especially bad if you have kids with somebody who does this. If you have kids with somebody who does this, then you have to consider the child, right? Because somebody that's figured like this, it's no business raising kids. But yeah, there's a lot of immaturity. I mean, for every man child, there's a woman child. I can guarantee you that. Let's stay in mind too. I mean, people can make money and still be brats, And I don't know if that's like a hidden daddy kink or something where they want to be corrected and told how to live life on a basic level, like they don't fucking know already, and they're 36, 37. No thanks. Doesn't get me hard. Doesn't get me excited. Because really, I mean, if you have a serious fucking issue with your mind or issues with your body, like I do, I have issues. Everybody does, at varying degrees. You need to be committed to recovery. Um, and if you're not, don't expect anybody else to want to play along. It's not ableist to say, I don't want to interact with somebody that is so mentally ill, they're just harming everyone, right? That's pointless.